move on to Pamela. Let us know a little bit about your work, about your process, and what it is you're hoping to communicate through your art.
Yeah, well, I paint in acrylics and I work in an abstract way. This is my work behind me. And I build like these kind of alien landscapes. I called it like I'm an emotional landscape painter because I do think what's coming up in my paintings is about the interior life, whether that's in your head or your heart. And way back in college, many years ago, these symbols started coming up for me, and I found it was a really great way to be able to talk about things in my painting without actually using words. And they just kind of morphed into this library of things that have kind of a meaning for me. And it's interesting because then I can put them out into the world, and because it's not letters or words, then the world can adopt these symbols to mean what they mean for them. And I love that idea of somebody having a personal connection with the art. So, well, they may not be the creator of it, but they could love that piece and it means something to them and it speaks to them as an individual, even though it may not have anything to do with where it came from out of me. I look at my paintings, I see little stories. One of the ways I try to explain my art is if you could imagine what the world would look like if everyone didn't have a body, right? So it's just everybody's souls walking around. And of course they couldn't live in this world because it wouldn't work. So what does that world look like that those energy beings, those souls would live in? What would that world look like? So gravity is different, everything is different. And that's where I like to play when I look back at my paintings. Now, when I'm doing the paintings, I'm not there. I'm in a different state altogether. But when I'm done with it, that's what I tend to see. And a lot of people see like musical instruments in my work, which I think is really interesting because I don't think about musical instruments when I paint. And but I think music too also has a lot of emotion. So it would make sense. I think that people would pick up on stuff like that, because there's a
Yeah,
lot of lyricism in the shapes that I make and
yeah.
act.
I love how you expressed it in terms of emotional landscape. Um, I the just the it's such a visual and imaginative phrase for people to latch onto, and as they look at your work, to see that and experience that. And you
Mhm.
so beautifully stated how that comes about for you and what you're hoping that connection looks like for people. And the fact that you can create something and have one meaning for you, and then for somebody else something completely different, that's also something kind of like mystical and magical.
Yeah.
And to, to know that it's almost like this collaboration that you have with your viewer and with your collector, because they're bringing something to your work as well. They're
Right.
bringing their experiences, they're bringing their emotions, the things that are important to them, to your work, and then it almost like takes another life,
Exactly.
as it leaves your hands and then goes into the homes of their of theirs. And
Exactly. And it's just as valid. And I
yeah,
think, and to me personally, as a person and as an artist, that's really important to me too, the democratization of art, so that it's no longer art is on this little pinnacle where only the very special elite people get to enjoy it because you have to have a special education to understand it. I think is one of the biggest crimes against humanity that we've let happen, because we're the only species on the planet that draws a line in the sand and says this line has a specific meaning. It's amazing that we do it. We are creators. So I love the idea of art being released onto the world, and it's not just housed in a special little place and only the very special clean people can show up there. Because and I think everyone can enjoy abstract art too. Not that they can choose not to, but I think that it's not about knowing something special. I love the passion of art, of the real creators and the people who really love art because it speaks to them as an individual. That's the art world I want to live in. And I think it's a really broad, wild, wonderful place that includes the majority of people.